I just wanted to give a quick tour of the new garage before I tear it apart, replacing and building on stuff. So I'll start here with our whiteboard. This is where we keep track of all the things that we got going on in all the cars. You can see we got quite a few in that need a little bit of loving. Start with the TR6, which needs rear brakes replaced, the lines and the brake lines replaced, the exhaust manifold and the header. The rear suspension needs to be replaced. There's a headlight out, and then we've got a front spoiler that we're going to install on it as well. Moving on to our 1972 VW Super Beetle. It's in need of an oil change. It's also the door seals and rubbers that are running around the doors need to be replaced. And it's got some problems with the seat belts we need to look at. Moving on to the 1974 MG Midget. It's pretty much ready to go. The seat needs to be finished, the installation. We're missing 2 screws on that. The radio needs to be repaired. We bought a new retro radio. So it's brand new functionality, but it's retro styled. It's not working anymore. And then the exhaust needs to be sealed. We installed the new exhaust system on it. New header all the way down through to the very tail end. There's a small gap that we need to seal up with some exhaust and seal. Moving forward, the big project car, the new one, the MGB GT. That's the blue hatch. It's got quite a few things that needs to be replaced. The right hatch spring. The right hatch spring needs to be replaced, the cover there. It needs a new air filter, which actually we went ahead and did that already. We scratched this off the list. We put a quote-unquote cold air intake on there. It's going to need an oil change. It's got a high beam light indicator. It's out in the dash. We got to replace. There's a firewall plug, which we actually did that as well already. Shoot. Check these off the list. We got to flush the coolant all together. We need to flush the brake fluid. I'm not sure if we're going to put .5, .1 in it or not. It needs to replace the wiper motor and wiper gear. It just doesn't work at all. There's a dash map light, courtesy light. We're going to replace that as well. It's kind of broken a bit. The fuel sender unit's broken, so it stops reading at 1/4 of a tank. So once you hit there, you're not sure if you're 1/4 a tank or 0 a tank. That's a problem. It's got an aftermarket Panasonic radio head in it. We're going to replace that again with the classic retro radio mod. We need to tighten the rear badge up and replace the radiator hose. There's a small nick in it. I'm afraid it's going to burst under pressure, so we're going to get that swapped out as well. Moving on again, we got the 2006 Mazda Miata, the MX-5. It's in need of an oil change, and it's got hella horns that we're going to install in it, so you can hear the cute little car roaming around the corners. Finally, moving on to the Saturn Sky Redline. It's in need of quite a few things, despite it being a modern car. It's the more reliable of the bunch. It's got an oil change. It's got a leak in the rear tire. It's got a passenger seat sensor that's broken, so it doesn't know if you're in a passenger or not for airbags. It doesn't have inspection done because of the passenger seat indicator. It's got a coolant leak somewhere happening intermittently in the car, and then the emergency brake needs to be adjusted to work again. So this is the roadmap for the things happening in the garage. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what we got sitting in here. First and foremost is the Resident Midget Tranny. This is part of the rebuild that we did on the Midget. It's the original transmission. It's got great gears, but the housing needs to be replaced, so we're going to swap them out sometime. Moving on to the car that needs the most amount of work. This is the Triumph TR6 from 1974. TR6. We're kind of stripping this car down. This will become more or less a track car, a street legal track car, as best as we can. So we remove the front bumper. The rear bumper will go with it. We remove the soft top. It's sitting up there. We're kind of stripping it down. We'll get a bunch of performance tuning upgrades. This is the only inline 6 that we own. It's got quite a lot of power sitting under that hood with the dual Zenith Stromberg carbs. Moving on to this one here, we've got the 1974 MGB GT. This is the one we're currently working on. It's the newest acquisition. It doesn't need much. It's up and running. It's running strong. We're just going to tweak and tune the last couple of things. Take it out tomorrow to Cars and Coffee. Show it off to the rest of the world. And then finally, the tried and true original patron of the garage, the MG Midget. This is again a 74 MG Midget with the 1.2 liter 1275cc engine. This one's pretty much ready to rock and roll. So you got to seal a couple things up and re-bolt the seat down. Otherwise, it kind of moves a lot. It's not good when you're driving. And that's it for the inside of the garage. Outside, we've got sitting in the driveway. You can just see it peeking underneath there. That's our 1972 Super Beetle. And then to the left of that guy over there is the Saturn Sky. And the Miata's out driving around right now in this lovely, lovely swampy DC rain. Finally, to keep the garage clean and tidy, we moved everything into one location. So there's no more things residing on this back wall here. Instead, we've got all the tools, the parts, the spares, the liquids, the fluids, everything you can imagine, all sitting over here. So a couple spare parts. This is the old exhaust from the MG Midget. There are some rims for the VW. Got this lovely tool chest. Shout out to Harbor Freight. Cheapest stuff around. So cheap you can buy 2 of them. So when one breaks, you have a backup. It's kind of our shelves of liquids and fluids, from oils to brakes to seafoam to jumper cables to gloves and tape. Those are the new headers and intermediate pipes for the TR6. We'll get those installed sometime in the week or so. And then finally, what I love about this garage, and what I think everyone should do if you're working on a car 1 or 6 or 10, is to just go pick up one of these crates. These are all from Home Depot, but they're like 10-15 bucks a piece. And just every part that you can, just fit them in here. So we've got them labeled. Starting with the bottom one here. This is everything for the Midget that can fit in here. So the exhaust is in there and such. Next up's the TR6, all the small parts, all the brake lines, all the pieces that need to be replaced. The BGT, this has got everything that we've gotten from there. The BGT actually came with a single downdraft Weber carb and the appropriate inlets for them. So we may, if we get tired of these dual SU carbs, switch over to a Weber carb to pump out a little bit more horsepower. Next up, we've got the Super Beetle box. And then finally, the extras miscellaneous box. All the stuff that whenever I go to Home Depot and buy at the shelf and doesn't fit, but I don't feel like returning, all ends up landing in here. That brings us back around to the very beginning again. So this is what it looks like. And on a nice day, the garage door's open and we can see out and get some fresh air.